It is no coincidence that you are here. Your new place has arrived. Have you ever had that strange feeling that your life is on pause, as if something is about to change, but you still don't know exactly what? Well, sometimes we call it tiredness, a bad season, or even bad luck, when in fact it may be a quiet invitation from God to a new place, a new direction, a transition that begins first inside the mind. And let me tell you something a little provocative. Maybe you are not late, you are just standing in the wrong environment. Now, think with me, what if this restlessness in your heart is not anxiety, but a promise trying to push you toward the next step? People like Abraham, Joseph, and even Napoleon Hill have taught, each in their own way, that progress almost always is born from an uncomfortable change, but one full of purpose, peace, and honor. Today, you will realize that faith, obedience, and direction walk together, and that perhaps this conversation is exactly the bridge between who you are and who God has already declared that you can become. Sometimes God's direction does not come in a loud voice, nor on glowing signs along the road, but in that persistent peace that never leaves you. It is as if the mind finally slows down and the heart says, "This is the way." Faith begins when you learn to trust this peace as a silent declaration that there is purpose even before you understand the whole map. Notice how, in decisive moments, confusion decreases when you draw closer to God and honor that inner signal. Abraham had no spiritual GPS, Joseph had no guarantee of a palace, and yet they followed the direction that brought peace in the middle of transition. Perhaps your progress today does not depend on new answers, but on listening better to what is already echoing inside you. There are people who spend their whole lives asking for signs, while God has left peace parked in their hearts a long time ago. It is almost like asking for new Wi-Fi without realizing the signal is already strong. You just need to connect your mind. Obedience begins when you stop negotiating with doubt and honor the direction that already came with calm, purpose, and a silent promise of progress. And let me share a mentor's secret: those who wait too long for confirmation end up missing the best moment of transition. Napoleon Hill said that firm decision is a bridge to success, and in faith it is no different. You declare with your actions before the environment changes. Maybe today your next step is not to ask for more signs but to trust the peace and simply go. When God calls Abraham to leave his land, his relatives, and his father's house, he is not just changing an address, he is repositioning a mind. True change almost always begins by breaking away from comfortable environments that no longer match the new place of the promise. Faith, at this point, is accepting that obedience hurts a little, but prepares the way for a much greater purpose. Now think about this with care. How many times do you try to live something new without letting go of what is already over? Abraham did not carry the map, but he carried the direction, the honor, and a silent declaration of trust in God. Maybe your progress today depends less on heroic courage and more on a simple step outside the familiar zone. Not every comfortable environment is healthy for your destiny, and sometimes we learn that the hard way. Staying where everything is predictable may give momentary peace, but it steals the direction of the purpose God wants to reveal in the new place. Change, at this stage, is trading familiar applause for fertile silence, where the mind truly begins to grow. A practical exercise? Observe your conversations, your readings, and even your Sunday habits. The environment shapes you more than you imagine. Napoleon Hill insisted that success is born from the right associations, and faith confirms this when you honor transition even without understanding everything. Perhaps your next breakthrough is not in doing more but in leaving where you are no longer expanding. True faith is not waiting for the whole bridge to appear, with handrails and safety signs. It is placing your foot in the empty space, trusting that God will build while you walk. The mind screams for guarantees, but purpose is revealed only when you declare with your actions that you trust the direction you received. Progress almost always begins with a slightly trembling step, but full of obedience. Want a simple training? Make small decisions aligned with the promise, even without seeing immediate results, like reading 10 pages a day of Think and Grow Rich and applying one practical idea during the week. Abraham stepped without a map, Joseph fell without understanding, and yet each step became a bridge in the transition. Perhaps today your faith is being tested exactly in this first invisible movement. Many people want to see first and then obey, but in the kingdom the order is reversed: you obey and only then does the manifestation appear. It is like planting today without any guarantee of rain tomorrow, trusting that God honors those who take the right step at the right time. Mature faith understands that direction does not come as a reward, it comes as a test of trust. In practice, start with simple things: organize your routine, be faithful in little things, honor commitments even when no one sees. Napoleon Hill would call this invisible discipline, and the Bible calls it obedience that generates progress. Maybe what you are waiting for from heaven is already waiting for a decision from you here on earth. Few people realize it, but the environment talks to your mind all the time, whispering who you can or cannot become. Staying in places that drain faith, purpose, and direction is like trying to grow in dry soil. You may sprout, but you will never truly flourish. God changes people, yes, but almost always He begins by changing the environment of transition. A simple experiment: replace 1 hour of social media with inspiring reading, like The Power of the Subconscious Mind or Think and Grow Rich, and watch how your vision expands. Abraham changed lands, Joseph changed scenes, and each change opened a new bridge to progress. Maybe today your destiny is asking for less effort and a strategic change of environment. Not every soil is good for every seed, and that also applies to dreams, ideas, and spiritual callings. Choosing the right soil is an act of silent obedience, because you honor the purpose before you ever see fruit. God does not fail in the promise, but many times the mind insists on planting in the wrong environment and then blames the harvest. A practical step: reevaluate where you invest your time, attention, and emotional energy, because there your faith will grow or wither. Napoleon Hill said that thought prospers where it finds fertile ground, and the Bible confirms that honor begins with good choices. Perhaps your progress today depends less on praying for growth and more on changing the soil where you are planted. The story of Joseph teaches that transition does not always begin with glory. Sometimes it begins with a pit, silence, and unanswered questions. Even so, he did not let his mind sour or his faith grow cold, because he knew God was writing something greater in that unlikely environment. True promise does not depend on a beautiful scenario, it depends on direction and obedience in the middle of chaos. Want a practical survival tip for your spiritual life? Use difficult times to develop skills: study, read, organize plans, as someone training for a position that has not yet arrived. Joseph managed a prison as if he already saw the palace, and that invisible progress became a bridge to future honor. Maybe today your pit is not punishment, it is exactly the preparation for something you still cannot see. Adversity does not have to be a wall, it can become a staircase when you choose to respond with faithfulness instead of rebellion. Joseph did not change environments because he wanted to, but he changed his attitude because he understood that God was using every transition as training for purpose. Mature faith looks at the problem and declares, "This does not define me, it only prepares me." In practice, write down what each difficulty is teaching you: discipline, patience, vision, or humility, because there is already a hidden step there. Napoleon Hill said that every setback carries a seed of equal or greater benefit, and the Bible confirms this with honor and progress. Perhaps your next step is not after the struggle, it is exactly inside it. Now tell me honestly, what is still preventing you from taking this next step that God has already declared in your heart? Is it fear, attachment to the old environment, haste outside the right timing, or lack of obedience to the peace that already exists within you? And what if today were exactly the day to align your mind, honor the transition, and cross this bridge toward the new place your purpose is asking for? Think about this calmly: which habits do you need to adjust, which cycles to close with honor, and which decisions to take with faith before the manifestation appears? Progress begins when you choose direction instead of excuses, purpose instead of comfort, and God instead of human approval. If this content spoke to you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and walk with us on this journey of change, peace, and growth.